Welcome to Storyteller's Corner. My mother-in-law kicked me out of the house in the middle of dinner because she couldn't stand the sight of me. My husband sat beside me, his silence a form of consent. I gave a bitter laugh and then did something that sent my entire in-law family to live under a bridge. The sharp clatter of a fork scraping against a fine china plate was a piercing sound that ripped through the already leaden atmosphere of the dining room. Startled, I lifted my eyes to the woman sitting opposite me. Carol, my mother-in-law. Her face was a thunderous mask, her eyes boring into me as if I were a mortal enemy, not the daughter-in-law who had dutifully served this family for the past 2 years. Carol slammed her silverware down and pointed a finger straight at my face. "What are you looking at?" she screeched, her voice a shrill vinegar that grated on the nerves. Was I wrong? Look at that long face, like you're at a funeral. You've ruined my appetite all day. A woman whose husband comes home exhausted from work and she can't even bother to ask how he is, just sits there with a sourpuss face. Get out of my house. Do me a favor and get out of my sight. I froze, the food in my mouth turning to ash. I had spent the entire day scrubbing this 3-story suburban house from top to bottom. My limbs ached with exhaustion, and I hadn't even had a sip of water before Carol had barked at me to start making dinner. And this baseless, cruel tirade was my reward. I turned to Kevin, my husband, who sat right next to me. He kept his head down, shoveling food into his mouth as if the world around him didn't exist. He knew how unreasonable his mother was. He knew how tired I was. Just this morning, he had asked me to iron his best suit for a client meeting. I gently touched his sleeve, my eyes pleading for a single word of defense from the man I shared my bed with. "Kevin, please say something to your mom. I haven't done anything wrong. I was cleaning all day." Kevin stopped eating but didn't look up. He let out a soft sigh, a weak, defeated sound I had grown to despise over the last 2 years. He put his bowl down, his voice a mumble, daring neither to look at his mother nor his wife. "Come on, Emily. You know Mom has high blood pressure. Getting worked up isn't good for her. She's angry, so just don't argue. Why don't you pack a bag and stay at your parents' for a few days? Wait for her to cool down, and then we'll figure it out. This atmosphere is exhausting to come home to." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband, the man I had defied my own parents to marry, was now siding with his mother to throw me out of the house for a nonsensical reason. He wanted me to go to my parents' house just to appease his mother. Apparently, his mother's feelings were more important than his wife's dignity and pain. Hearing her son's words, Carol's face lit up with smug triumph. She sneered, a cruel, contemptuous smile on her lips. "You hear that? Even your own husband is sick of looking at you. Know your place and get going. This family must have done something right in a past life to be blessed with a son as good and talented as Kevin. Marrying him was the best thing that ever happened to you, and you don't even know how to be grateful." The best thing that ever happened to me? I almost laughed out loud. I, the pampered daughter of a renowned real estate mogul, was being told I'd married up by moving into this family of a mid-level government employee? I looked at Kevin one last time, hoping to salvage a final shred of my pride, but he had already turned his attention back to his soup, slurping it down with relish as if no argument had ever occurred. Disappointment surged in my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. I stood up, my trembling hands gripping the edge of the expensive oak dining table, a table purchased with my parents' money. I looked straight at Carol, then at Kevin, and nodded slowly. "Fine, if you've said so, and Kevin agrees, then I'll go." I dropped my napkin and walked straight upstairs. Behind me, I could still hear Carol's booming, gleeful voice. "Hurry up, and make sure you take all your cheap rags with you. Don't clutter up my closets." Each step of the staircase felt like a mile. Only then did the tears finally come, hot and salty. I wasn't crying for the loss of this family. I was crying for myself. I cried for the naive Emily of 2 years ago who believed in love, who believed in the sincerity of a spineless man, only to be met with this crushing betrayal in the very house she had poured her own money into building. The bedroom door slammed shut, separating me from the noise and toxicity below. I leaned against it, sliding down to the cold floor. The room was spacious and elegant, decorated in tasteful shades of cream. I had chosen every piece of furniture, hung every painting brought back from my travels abroad, and now I was being evicted like a freeloader. Kevin didn't come up. He was probably downstairs, peeling fruit for his mother to calm her down, or whispering nasty things about me. His cowardice was nothing new, but today, its cruelty had reached my breaking point. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. Crying wouldn't solve anything. Carol was right about one thing. I had to leave, but I wouldn't leave like a victim. I reached for my phone on the bed, my hand still shaking as I dialed a familiar number, a number I had rarely called in 2 years, afraid of bothering them, afraid they would see how unhappy I was. The phone rang twice before it was picked up instantly. "Hello, Mom's here. Emily, what is it? Why are you calling at this hour?" The calm, authoritative voice of Eleanor Vance came through the line. Just hearing my mother's voice, the strong walls I had built around myself crumbled. I choked back a sob, but failed. "Mom." The line was silent for a moment. Then Eleanor's voice turned sharp and cold, laced with fierce concern. "Stop crying and listen to me. You are the daughter of Eleanor Vance. Tears are not shed for those who are unworthy. Now tell me, what did they do to you? Did that Kevin hit you, or is that old hag acting up again?" I sniffled, trying to keep my voice steady as I quickly recounted the events, how Carol had kicked me out, how Kevin had told me to go to my parents. When I finished, my mother's cold laughter echoed through the phone, sending a shiver down my spine. "Kicked you out? How dare they? They think they're gods, kicking my daughter out of her own house." "Mom, Emily, listen to me." Eleanor cut me off, her tone shifting into the command mode of a corporate titan. "Right now, you are going to get up, lock your bedroom door, go to the safe, and take out the house deed and all the important documents. Put all your jewelry in your handbag. You will not step foot out of that room tonight. Stay put. I'll be there in the morning." "What are you going to do?" "Maybe I should just get a cab and come home," I asked anxiously. "You will do no such thing. You will not flee like a criminal in the middle of the night. You walked into that house with your head held high, and you will walk out the same way. Now do as I say. Lock the door and go to sleep. We'll see who's packing their bags tomorrow." She hung up abruptly. I stared at the dark screen, a strange sense of security washing over me. It had been so long since I felt this protected. My parents, titans of the real estate world, had spoiled me rotten, but I had foolishly ignored their advice to chase after a blind love. I got up and did exactly as my mother instructed. I locked the door and went to the safe. The beep sounded as I entered the code, and the door swung open. Inside, resting prominently, was the deed to the property. The owners' names were listed as Kevin Miller and Emily Vance. I scoffed at seeing Kevin's name next to mine. Back then, to save his pride, to believe in the idea of a marital partnership, I had begged my parents to let him be a co-owner, even though the entire $3 million for the house came from my family. Kevin hadn't contributed a single cent, not even for the property taxes. He just moved in his clothes and started living like a king. I gathered all the papers, my wedding jewelry, and other small valuables into a duffel bag. When I was done, I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. From downstairs, the sound of the TV and the cheerful chatter of Carol and Kevin drifted up, grating on my nerves. They were happy, thinking they had taught me a lesson, believing I would scurry back to my parents and, in a few days, return with a tearful apology, ready to resume my role as their unpaid maid. They were wrong. Their biggest mistake was forgetting who I was and who stood behind me. Tonight would be the last night I ever cried for a man named Kevin. The next morning, sunlight filtering through the curtains woke me from a restless night. I freshened up, changed into a smart dress, and applied light makeup to hide my swollen eyes. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the clock. It was 8 a.m. Suddenly, there was a commotion downstairs. I heard a car pull up, its engine a low purr, followed by the insistent ringing of the doorbell. My heart pounded. Mom was here. I opened my bedroom door and stepped into the hallway, looking down into the living room. Carol was shuffling to the front door, muttering curses about who would dare disturb her morning. Kevin was sitting primly on the sofa, pretending to read an old newspaper like an intellectual. The heavy iron gate creaked open. A gleaming black Maybach was parked in the driveway, dominating the space. The car door opened, and my mother, Eleanor, stepped out. She wore a chic white pantsuit and dark sunglasses, her aura of power overwhelming everything around her. Following her was her tall, imposing driver, a man in a black suit carrying a briefcase whom I recognized as our family lawyer, and 2 other large bodyguards. Carol froze for a second, then her expression shifted. She assumed Eleanor was here to apologize, to make peace and beg for her daughter to be taken back. Her delusion of grandeur had never changed. Carol smoothed her thinning hair and jutted out her chin. "Eleanor, you're here early. I suppose Emily ran, crying to you with some tall tales. Let me tell you, your daughter is lazy and disrespectful. I tried to teach her a lesson, and she threw a fit. You really need to reconsider how you raised her." Eleanor took off her sunglasses, her sharp eyes scanning Carol as if she were an alien species. She didn't bother to reply, just gave a faint, contemptuous smirk and strode past her into the house as if Carol were invisible. Her entourage followed in a thunderous procession that seemed to shake the floor. In the living room, Kevin shot to his feet, his face a mess of confusion. "Eleanor," he stammered, "you're here. Please, have a seat. Can I get you some water?" Eleanor didn't sit. She stood in the middle of the room, one hand resting on an elegant cane. She surveyed the house, her gaze finally landing on Kevin. "I don't need any water. I'm afraid it might give me a stomachache. Where is Emily?" I walked down the stairs, duffel bag in hand. Seeing me, Eleanor nodded with satisfaction. I went to my mother's side and quietly said, "Mom." Carol had scurried in by then. Seeing my bag, she shrieked, "See? I haven't even had to kick her out, and she's already packed her bags. Good riddance. But you better leave everything valuable behind. Don't you dare take a single thing from this house." Eleanor spun around to face Carol, her voice like steel, each word enunciated with chilling clarity. "You will shut your mouth. Whose house do you think this is that gives you the right to throw my daughter out?" Carol, stunned, puffed out her chest. "This is my son's house. His name is right there on the deed. Don't think you can bully poor people just because you're rich." Eleanor let out a loud, hearty laugh, dripping with sarcasm. She signaled to the lawyer beside her. Mr. Thompson, with professional poise, opened his briefcase, pulled out a thick file, and placed it on the coffee table. "Mrs. Miller, Kevin." Mr. Thompson began in a calm, measured tone. "Here are all the bank statements, purchase agreements, and notarized affidavits confirming the source of funds for this property. The total purchase price was $2.8 million, plus $200,000 for furnishings, totaling $3 million. The entire amount was transferred directly from Mrs. Eleanor Vance's account to the developer. Kevin did not contribute a single dollar." Kevin's face went pale, sweat beading on his forehead. He knew this, of course, but he never imagined my mother would have kept such detailed records. Carol, ever defiant, persisted. "So what? He's married to her daughter. It's community property. The deed has Kevin's name on it, so half of this house is his. That's the law." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "Yes, that's the law, but you seem to have forgotten the prenuptial agreement I had Kevin sign before the wedding." Kevin trembled, his eyes darting around frantically. He remembered the paper he had signed so carelessly, thinking they would never get divorced, blinded by the prospect of marrying into a wealthy family. Eleanor's voice turned to ice. "Furthermore, as of this morning, my daughter has granted me full power of attorney over this asset. I bought this house for my daughter to live in comfort, not to support 2 leeches like you. Now that she no longer wishes to live here, I'm selling it." "Selling? Selling what?" Carol shrieked. "The house?" Eleanor replied coolly. "I listed it this morning, $200,000 below market value for a quick sale. The potential buyers are on their way. You 2 have 1 hour to pack your personal belongings and get out." You wouldn't dare," Carol sputtered, pointing a shaking finger at my mother. "Security!" Eleanor called out. The 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward, crossing their arms and forming a human wall in front of my mother and me. Their intimidating presence made Carol stumble backward, tripping over the leg of a table. Eleanor turned to Kevin, her eyes filled with disappointment. "Kevin, I once hoped that while you might be poor in wealth, you were rich in character, that you would love and cherish my daughter. But I was wrong. You are nothing but a mama's boy, a weak and pathetic man. Today, I am taking back what belongs to my daughter. As for you, you are left with nothing." Kevin hung his head, not daring to utter a word. He knew that when the matriarch made her move, his feeble resistance was utterly meaningless. The air in the room grew thick, the hum of the air conditioner doing nothing to cool the tension. After her initial shock, Carol resorted to her usual tactic, playing the victim. She slumped to the floor, slapping her thighs and wailing dramatically, "Oh, heaven and earth! The rich are robbing us of our home! My wicked daughter-in-law called her mother to beat and throw out her mother-in-law. Does anyone see this injustice?" Her cries were loud enough to be heard on the street. I cringed with second-hand embarrassment, but my mother's expression remained unchanged. She calmly sat down on the sofa, crossed her legs, and took a sip of the tea Carol had been making, then grimaced in distaste. "Mr. Thompson, please explain the legal situation to them clearly. I wouldn't want them telling people we're thieves," my mother commanded. Mr. Thompson nodded, adjusting his glasses. "Mrs. Miller, Kevin." According to the prenuptial agreement that Kevin signed, he acknowledged that 100% of the funds for this house came from Emily's family. He was listed on the deed as a nominal co-owner only. The agreement explicitly states that if the marriage dissolves due to the fault of Party B, or if irreconcilable differences arise causing Party A to terminate cohabitation, Party A has the full right to dispose of the asset. Party B is obligated to cooperate with the transfer and is not entitled to any share of the original property value. Kevin looked up, his face drained of all color. But marital property law." "Kevin," Mr. Thompson interrupted, his tone sharper now. "Remember, we have irrefutable proof of your lack of financial contribution. Furthermore, your mother's act of kicking Emily out of the house last night was recorded, both audio and video, by the security camera in this living room. That is evidence that your side unilaterally violated marital obligations, causing severe emotional distress. If this goes to court, you will not only lose everything, but you will also be liable for damages." I glanced up at the corner of the ceiling. That's right, the camera. I had installed it to watch the housekeeper when we first married and had completely forgotten about it. But the system was still active, storing everything on the cloud. I never realized my mother was sharp enough to have already accessed and retrieved that footage. Hearing the words "lose everything" and "damages," Carol's wailing stopped as if a plug had been pulled. She stared blankly at her son. "Kevin, what kind of damn paper did you sign? Why were you so stupid?" Kevin held his head in his hands, groaning. At the time, I thought it was just a formality, and her parents promised to give us the house anyway." "Give it to my daughter," Eleanor interjected, her voice sharp. "To give them a stable home, not for you to terrorize my child. Now that the goodwill is gone, the asset must return to its rightful owner." Just then, the doorbell rang again. A real estate agent led a well-dressed, middle-aged couple into the yard. "Hello, Eleanor. I've brought the clients to see the house as scheduled," the agent said cheerfully. Eleanor stood up, a polite smile on her face. "Please, come in. Feel free to look around. I'm selling it quickly, so the price is very attractive. All the high-end furniture is included. We're only taking personal items." The couple looked around, admiring the design and prime location of the house. They began discussing where they would put a new cabinet, what color they would repaint a wall. They acted as if Kevin and his mother were invisible. Carol couldn't stand it. She scrambled to her feet and lunged in front of the buyers, spreading her arms like a mother hen protecting her coop. "It's not for sale. This is my house. You people get out. Now." The buyers flinched, looking at Carol with alarm before turning to my mother. "Eleanor, what's going on? Is there a dispute over the property?" My mother maintained her calm smile and turned to her lawyer. "Mr. Thompson, please call the police. Report a public disturbance and illegal trespassing. I am the homeowner. I have asked them to leave, and they are refusing." At the mention of the police, Kevin truly panicked. He worked for a government agency. Though the pay was low, the title of a civil servant was the only thing he had left to maintain his dignity. If the police came and filed a report and word got back to his office, his career would be over. Kevin rushed to grab his mother, his voice pleading, "Mom, stop making a scene. Do you want me to lose my job? They're serious, Mom." "But the house. The house," Carol stammered, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. She took one last look around the magnificent house, her eyes filled with regret and greed. "There's no house anymore." "Let's go, Mom," Kevin said through gritted teeth, pulling his mother by the arm toward the stairs. "Go pack your clothes. Now." I watched the scene unfold without a shred of pity. Their cruelty last night had extinguished the last embers of affection I had for them. I turned to the buyers with a soft smile. "My apologies for the inconvenience. Just a small issue with the former tenants. They'll be leaving shortly." In less than 30 minutes, Kevin and Carol emerged with a few suitcases and large plastic bags. Carol kept looking back, muttering curses under her breath, but didn't dare speak loudly as the two bodyguards stood with their arms crossed, glaring at her. The iron gate slammed shut behind them with a dry, final thud, ending 2 years of a hellish marriage and shattering the dream of a happy family. I stood in the vast living room, feeling as if a massive weight had been lifted from my shoulders. My mother came over and placed a hand on my shoulder, her voice softer now. "It's over, my dear. Let's go home. Your father is waiting for us for lunch." I threw my arms around my mother, tears flowing again. But this time, they were tears of liberation. The sale of the house proceeded with dizzying speed. The buyers, a couple who owned a jewelry business, loved the property's location and feng shui, so they agreed to put down a deposit immediately without haggling. Mr. Thompson worked professionally, drafting the deposit agreement and promising to hand over the house the same day. My mother, Eleanor, signed the papers with a decisive flourish, as if severing all my ties to this place. Meanwhile, Kevin and Carol were cornered. They stood huddled in a corner of the living room, watching strangers walk through what was once their home with a mixture of fear and resentment. Carol still seemed unable to accept that she had lost everything overnight. She mumbled incoherent curses, her hand clutching Kevin's sleeve. After the buyers left to arrange the fund transfer, Eleanor turned to Kevin and his mother. She ordered the staff to start packing my personal belongings. My designer handbags, clothes, and shoes were neatly packed into cardboard boxes by the housekeepers. Seeing this, Kevin cautiously approached me. He looked at me with pleading eyes, his voice hoarse and trembling. "Emily, are you really doing this? We were married for 2 years, shared a life together. If you sell the house this fast, where will my mother and I go? Can you just give us a few days to find a rental?" I looked at the man before me, his once scholarly and gentle appearance now reduced to pathetic calculation. I remembered last night when he had calmly sided with his mother to throw me out into the dark. Did he wonder then where I would go? I replied coldly, "Kevin, the way you and your mother kicked me out last night is exactly how I'm returning the favor. No, actually, I'm being more decent. I'm doing it in broad daylight. The sun is still up, giving you both time to find shelter. The sales contract is signed. The new owners are moving in tonight. Please collect your personal items and leave before noon." Hearing this, Carol went berserk. She lunged forward to grab my arm, but a bodyguard swiftly blocked her. She screamed, "You evil, disrespectful witch! I curse you! You steal my house? You'll never have a good life." My mother, standing beside me, laughed dryly. She glanced at her watch and said casually, 45 minutes left. If your belongings are still here after that time, I'll have them thrown in the trash. Mr. Thompson, please oversee this. I'm taking my daughter home." With that, my mother took my hand and led me to the car. I didn't look back at the house one last time. Behind me, Carol's hysterical sobs and Kevin's helpless sighs faded into the smooth hum of the car's engine. The car rolled away, leaving behind a dark chapter of my life that I had foolishly walked into. The Maybach took me back to my parents' mansion in the wealthiest part of the city. As soon as I stepped out of the car, I saw my father waiting in the foyer. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, with more silver in his hair. When he saw me, his eyes filled with infinite pain, but also immense love. I ran into his arms and cried like a child. He patted my back, his large, warm hand making all my grievances pour out. "It's good you're home, my girl. I told you, the door to our home is always open for you. There was no need to endure such hardship." Lunch that day was quiet but warm. My mother kept putting food on my plate, all my favorite dishes. There was no more clattering of silverware and disapproval, no more biting remarks, only the unconditional love of family. I realized how long I had missed these peaceful meals, all in the service of a family that didn't appreciate me. After lunch, I went to my old room to rest. It was exactly as I had left it before I got married, clean and fragrant with the scent of lemongrass essential oil. I lay down on the bed and picked up my phone. The screen lit up with dozens of missed calls and messages from Kevin. I opened the messages. At first, they were angry and threatening. "You've gone too far, Emily. You're destroying your husband's life. Do you have any conscience? Mom has collapsed. Are you happy now?" But when I didn't reply, his tone shifted to pleading. "Honey, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll make Mom apologize to you. Can we start over? I miss you so much. Please don't leave me." I skimmed through the disingenuous words and felt sick. If I didn't have my family's power, if my mother hadn't stood up for me, would he have sent these messages? Or would he be smugly watching me wander the streets? A person's true character is only revealed when their interests are at stake. And Kevin was only mourning the loss of his golden goose, not me. I decisively blocked his number, along with his social media accounts. I wanted to sever all contact with that traitor. From now on, my life would be free of his shadow. I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep, the most peaceful I'd had in 2 years. My peace didn't last long. 2 days later, as I was having tea with my mother in the garden, my phone rang with an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. On the other end was Kevin's rushed, breathless voice. He must have borrowed someone's phone. "Emily, you answered. Please, you have to help Mom. She's in the emergency room. The doctors say it's critical. Please come to the hospital right away. She wants to see you one last time." I listened, my heart completely still. The old me would have been frantic, rushing to the hospital, paying the bills, caring for her. But the Emily of today was awakened. I knew their characters too well. Carol was as strong as an ox. Just the other day she was screaming curses at me. How could she be critical so quickly? I took a sip of tea, my voice calm to the point of being cold. "Kevin, you have the wrong number. Your wife is dead. She died the night you kicked her out of the house. I'm a stranger now. Your mother is sick. You're her son. You take care of it. Why are you calling me?" Kevin paused, then continued his pathetic act. "Don't say that. We still have a connection. She's old and weak. The shock of losing the house gave her a stroke. I'm begging you, Emily, just come and help me with the hospital bills. I'm broke right now, haven't gotten my paycheck." So it all came down to money. He wasn't calling because of any lingering affection. He was calling because he needed an ATM. I laughed in contempt. "Kevin, as I recall, in all the years you worked, you never gave me a dime. You said you were saving it for something important. Well, your mother's illness is important. Use your savings. As for my money, it's for my own parents, the ones who raised me, not for ungrateful leeches." "Emily!" Kevin's voice changed instantly when he realized he wouldn't get any money. "You cold-hearted woman, you'll get what's coming to you." "Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I know for a fact that you are getting exactly what you deserve. Never bother me again." I hung up decisively. My mother, sitting opposite me, nodded in approval. "Well done, dear. With people like that, compassion is a luxury you cannot afford to give. I had someone look into it. Carol just has slightly elevated blood pressure from the stress. She's in the hospital to play the victim. They're putting on a show, hoping you'll feel sorry for them and come back to pay off their debts." I smiled at my mother. I knew I had done the right thing. This decisiveness was not just to protect myself, but to honor the love and effort my parents had invested in me. To prevent me from being labeled as a divorced woman mooching off her parents, and to help me get back on my feet, my mother decided to give me a special gift. On Sunday morning, she took me to a luxury condominium complex in the heart of the city. We entered a spacious apartment with a stunning view overlooking the river. The interior was designed in a modern, sophisticated style, a stark contrast to the gaudy, over-the-top decor Carol had forced on me in the old house. My mother handed me a set of keys and the property documents. "This is your home now, dear. I bought you this 3-bedroom, fully furnished apartment. Move in here and start your new life. A modern woman needs her own space, her own assets, to have true confidence. Don't depend on anyone, not even your parents. I held the keys, too moved to speak. My mother was always a visionary. She wanted me to be independent, to stand on my own 2 feet so no one could ever look down on me again. She sat on the sofa and took a check and a detailed statement from her purse. And this is your share from the sale of that. Sen. 8. And lost his other buddy. It's not like comes of it. 8. In has kluv man. Action to. 89. Intaz. End. Did vive. It's this is a portinga. In intist. He was never one. 10-eyed. 8 node. Action. This is a mention dividering the spidios, and exploded 4 monist. Actualike, H's. That's climb. It's wand for mated. It's 8 on event. I have 2. N. And ham. I quote. Explode. Rebellin now. It's common detecting now. That's them all. Under now. Canic to view liver downredded. Axplin. In actionis. It's not Wirgo. It's as not a bid. And 74-7. Interviders. And his age 9. In right. And a says. And a spawn. It's a sate. 80-19. Action. He nated. Avarices. Arium. Aster. Olive. It's plies. Inema. Any fiction. Heperis. 80. This camen is ard. I have to dime. End. Ask. Instry. Action. He's 11 way. Ever. Aided. It's crade ac. And eminent. Cansted. And servant live. Askla. I have to say. And a mutter. I fawn. Expline. 85. And was. 81. It stated mon. Hit happen in grode. In exigned. There one who readers and crested. Ender. It's fine heaven at. With fine heaven at. 80c. Right manchid is from morning this point. One boast. And his sound. Afterment. And subundated. Explained. I am. Is cree. I've. 8. I'm like to the day. I haven't the most. It's the cert now. He monotellins. Affix sense. Minus. Access. I have welling the cessation. It's a brand. It's Kazans. E-buy. 3 million house. I. Deducted the principaler. Family invested. I. Split the profit from the appreciation. However, since 100, 50,000, the rest, $500,000, is yours. I held the $500,000 check, and it felt heavy. It was a lot of money, but it was also the expensive price of a hard lesson in marriage. That's more than generous of you, Mom, I said. I know, dear. But we're people of means. We toss them a bone so they don't come back to bite us. Consider that $50,000 the price of your freedom. Now you have a home, you have capital. Go live a brilliant life. I nodded firmly. Yes, I had to live brilliantly. I would use this money to invest in myself, to pursue the dreams I had shelved for 2 years while being a good wife and daughter-in-law. This apartment would be my kingdom, a place where I could be myself, free and proud. The sale of the house was done, but one loose end remained, the valuable furniture my parents had given me as a wedding gift. According to the agreement with the new owners, I was allowed to take any freestanding items, which included an antique mahogany dining set worth over $20,000. I hired a professional moving company and went to the address of the cheap apartment where Kevin and his mother were staying to retrieve my property. It turned out that when they were kicked out, Kevin had quickly hired a truck to move the dining set, intending to keep it or sell it. He probably thought I wouldn't notice. When my moving truck parked in front of the rundown building on a narrow side street, Carol was sitting defiantly on one of the antique chairs, fanning herself. Seeing me get out of the car with several burly movers, she jumped up. "What are you doing here? Trying to steal the last roof over our heads?" I calmly walked over, holding a folder with the original receipts. "Hello, Carol. I'm here to collect my personal property. This dining set was a wedding gift from my parents. The receipt is in my name. Your son took it without my permission when he moved out. I'm here to take it back. Are you crazy? Wedding gift? Once it's in the husband's house, it belongs to the husband's family. I'm not letting anyone take it. This is my table. If you're so tough, come and take it. Carol sprawled across the table, thrashing and screaming like a spoiled child. Neighbors started peeking out of their doors. Kevin ran out of the apartment, his face changing color when he saw me. Emily, don't take it too far. Mom's not feeling well. Just let her be. It's just a few pieces of wood. Are you really going to be so petty with your ex-husband? I stared at Kevin, my eyes sharp. Petty? Kevin, this is theft of personal property. The value is over $20,000, which is a felony. Do you want me to call the police? Or will you voluntarily ask your mother to get up so my movers can do their job? Hearing the word felony, Kevin's face turned white. He knew the law was not a joke, especially when I had proof of ownership. He quickly turned to pull Carol's arm. Mom, get up! Give it back to her. Don't get the police involved. I'm not getting up. It's mine. I'm saving it for my future grandchild. Carol stubbornly clung to the table leg. I signaled to the moving crew leader. Please proceed. If anyone obstructs you, just record it as evidence. The large movers stepped forward. Seeing their imposing figures, Carol scrambled off the table in fear, spewing a stream of the foulest curses. Within 15 minutes, the entire dining set was loaded onto the truck. The cramped apartment now looked even emptier, with just a few plastic bags of clothes scattered around and the mother-son duo standing forlornly amidst the peeling walls. I looked at them one last time, feeling no pity. The $50,000 my mother gave you should be managed wisely. Don't expect anything more from me. I turned and walked away, leaving behind the utter humiliation and despair of my former in-laws. I had taken back everything that belonged to me, not just my property, but my honor and my dignity. After settling the furniture issue and my new living situation, I decided to spend some time with friends. The first person I thought of was Jessica, my best friend from college. I always trusted her with my joys and sorrows, even though our lives were very different. I asked her to meet at a chic cafe downtown, a place we used to go when I wanted to treat her. Jessica arrived 15 minutes late, dressed in her usual flashy style. As soon as she sat down, she started complaining about the traffic and the heat, without once asking how I was doing, even though she knew I had just gone through a major life event. I listened patiently, then began to tell her about the divorce, about being kicked out by my mother-in-law, and how my own mother had taken back the house. I expected her to be furious on my behalf, or at least offer a word of comfort. But Jessica's reaction stunned me. She stirred her smoothie, pouting. You know, I think you went a little overboard, Emily. He was your husband, and she was your mother-in-law. Even dishes clash sometimes. If she got angry and told you to leave, you should have just been patient, waited for her to calm down, and then apologized. Why did you have to escalate it to selling the house and throwing them out on the street? That's just cruel. I froze, unable to believe my ears. I stared at Jessica, searching for any sign of a joke on her face, but found none. What did you just say, Jessica? I was the one kicked out in the middle of the night. I was the one whose dignity was trampled on. Is it wrong for my mother to reclaim her own family's property? Was I supposed to get on my knees and beg to be allowed to stay in a house bought with my parents' money? Jessica clicked her tongue, her expression one of someone who thought she was worldly and wise. You've had it too easy. That's your problem. When a woman gets married, she has to adapt to her husband's family. You act all high and mighty because you have a rich mother. Honestly, what man isn't weak sometimes? What mother-in-law isn't difficult? You leave Kevin, and you'll be a divorcee. Who's going to want you then? You should have just endured it for the sake of peace. A woman is measured by her husband, not by a property deed. Every word from Jessica was like a bucket of ice water to my face, waking me up completely. I suddenly remembered that for years, whenever Kevin and I argued, Jessica had always advised me to be patient, to swallow my pride. It turned out she didn't want what was best for me. She was jealous of me. Jealous that I was born with a silver spoon, jealous that I had everything she ever wanted. She wanted to see me miserable, to see me suffer, to satisfy her own petty envy. I looked at Jessica, all traces of friendship gone from my eyes. I let out a bitter laugh. I get it now, Jessica. Thanks for showing me your true colors. You advised me to endure because you wanted to see me suffer, right? You were afraid my happy life would make you feel bad about your own. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'd rather be a divorcee than live a miserable life like the one you're suggesting. A woman might be measured by her husband, but a worthless husband like Kevin is someone I wouldn't even hesitate to throw to the dogs. Jessica's face turned crimson. She opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand to stop her. I called the waiter to pay for both our drinks. The gesture was like a slap to her pride. This one's on me. A farewell toast to our 10-year friendship. From now on, let's go our separate ways. Don't ever contact me again, and don't go spreading your slave mentality to anyone else. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out of the cafe with my head held high. The bright city sun shone down on me. I felt as if I had just shed another invisible burden. Toxic relationships needed to be cut out completely for life to truly blossom. After cutting ties with Jessica, I focused all my energy on finalizing the divorce. I wanted it over with as quickly as possible so Kevin would disappear from my life completely. However, just as my mother had predicted, Kevin started playing games. Mr. Thompson called me to his office to update me. He showed me the mediation papers from the court that Kevin had just submitted. Reading Kevin's demands, I didn't know whether to laugh or be furious. He agreed to the divorce, but on the condition that I pay him $500,000 in cash. The reasons he gave were ludicrous. Compensation for his wasted youth, damages to his reputation for being kicked out by his wife's family, and spousal support because he was now at risk of losing his job due to malicious rumors. He had absolutely no shame. I threw the file on the table. He already took the $50,000, and he still wants more. The greed is bottomless. Mr. Thompson calmly poured me a cup of tea, his sharp eyes glinting with confidence. Please, calm down, Emily. This is a common tactic from those looking for a last-minute payday. He thinks you'll pay up just to get it over with quickly. But he's mistaken. Not only will we not pay another cent, but we can also sue to get the initial $50,000 back if he continues to be difficult. He then turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a series of high-quality photos and videos a private investigator had gathered over the past week. I had him followed. It turns out the reason he needs money so desperately isn't just because he's unemployed or his mother is sick, it's to support his mistress. I looked at the screen. In the photos, Kevin was hand in hand with a young, stylish woman at expensive restaurants. There were even photos of them entering a hotel. The timestamp clearly showed this was happening before we had even separated. Her name is Tiffany, Mr. Thompson explained. She's a salesgirl at a department store. Kevin has been seeing her for about 3 months. He lied and told her he was a business owner, owned a mansion, and was a widower. This woman has a reputation for being a gold digger. She's with him because she thinks he's rich. I looked at the pictures, feeling not pain, but disgust. So while I was slaving away at home, enduring his mother's abuse, my husband was using his salary to wine and dine another woman. So, we have enough evidence of adultery, right? I asked. Absolutely, Mr. Thompson confirmed. With this evidence, plus his lack of financial contribution to the marriage, we can file for a fault-based divorce without his consent. We can even sue to recover the money he spent on his mistress, as it was marital property. I'll draft a legal notice and send it to him directly. It will state that if he doesn't agree to sign the divorce papers unconditionally, we will release this evidence and send a formal complaint to his government agency. I smiled, satisfied. Kevin was always terrified of losing face, of losing his respectable government job. If his affair and deceit were exposed, he would lose everything. Do it, Mr. Thompson. Let's show him the price of greed. The plan was set. I was no longer the docile, submissive wife. I would back Kevin into a corner and make him pay for his betrayal and cowardice. That weekend, I decided to treat myself to a shopping spree to de-stress. Holding my black card, I walked into the high-end designer stores I used to only admire from a distance, afraid of being criticized by Kevin and his mother for being wasteful. Now, I shopped without looking at the price tags, choosing elegant dresses that flattered my figure, a figure I had hidden for years under frumpy house clothes. After finding a few things I loved, I stopped by a luxury shoe store on the ground floor. As I walked in, I heard a familiar voice from the fitting area. "Go ahead, honey. Pick whatever you like. If you like it, I'll buy it." Money is no object for me. I stopped and turned. It was none other than Kevin. He was kneeling on the floor, tenderly helping a young woman try on shoes. She had long, curly hair, a perfectly made-up face, and a designer handbag. It was Tiffany, the mistress from the PI's file. Kevin was wearing the same old suit I used to iron for him, but he was trying to act like a millionaire. The way he fawningly served his mistress was a stark contrast to the cold, domineering man he was at home with me. I found it both pathetic and laughable. He was stingy with his wife but lavished money on his mistress, even though he was probably broke. Tiffany admired a pair of sparkling, crystal-encrusted heels on her feet. "These are gorgeous, honey," she cooed, "but they're $2,000. Are you sure?" Kevin puffed out his chest. "$2,000? That's nothing. I just closed a huge real estate deal. My commission was over $1 million. If you like it, you get it. I'll spoil you." I almost burst out laughing. $1 million deal? He was probably talking about the deal where my mother sold the house and kicked him out. He was playing the part of a tycoon, completely unaware that his most dangerous audience member was standing right behind him. I signaled for the sales associate to be quiet and slowly approached the play-acting couple. I found a spot near a handbag display and stood there with my arms crossed, watching. Tiffany seemed pleased with Kevin's gallantry. She gave him a peck on the cheek and pointed to another pair of shoes. "Then I'll take these too." "You're the best, Kevin. When are you taking me to the mansion to meet your parents?" "I can't wait to be the lady of the house." Kevin looked flustered for a moment, sweat appearing on his brow, but he tried to reassure her. "Soon, baby. The house is being renovated to your taste. And my mom's traveling in Europe right now. As soon as she's back, I'll introduce you." At that, I couldn't hold back any longer. This farce needed a finale. I walked over and tapped my fingernails on the glass display case. "Traveling in Europe, you say? Funny. I heard his mother was bedridden in a leaky, run-down apartment on the outskirts of the city." My voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to make both Kevin and Tiffany jump. Kevin spun around. When he saw me, the color drained from his face. The shoe in his hand dropped to the floor with a thud. His eyes were wide with terror, as if he'd seen a ghost. Tiffany looked from me to Kevin, confused. "Who is this, honey? What is she talking about? Who's in a run-down apartment?" I smiled, a radiant but razor-sharp smile. I strolled over to Tiffany, looked her up and down, and said in a light, mocking tone, "Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Emily, Kevin's legally wedded wife. I've heard so much about you. You're so beautiful. It's a shame your taste in men is so poor." Tiffany's face went white. She shook Kevin's arm. "Kevin, is she telling the truth? You told me your wife was dead." Kevin, finally snapping out of his shock, frantically denied it. No, baby, she's an ex-girlfriend. She's crazy. She keeps stalking me, trying to get me back." I laughed out loud, drawing the attention of everyone in the store. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo of our marriage certificate and the pictures of the squalid apartment, and held it up for Tiffany to see. "An ex-girlfriend with a marriage certificate like this? And look closely. This is the mansion he promised you. A one-bedroom rental for $800 a month in the Bronx. And that $1 million deal he was bragging about? That was him getting kicked out of a house by my mother for being a freeloader. His salary is barely enough to survive. Where would he get the money for $2,000 shoes? Probably from a loan shark." Tiffany took my phone, her face shifting from pale to a furious red as she swiped through the photos. She realized she had been scammed. She thought she'd landed a millionaire, but instead, she got a broke, pathetic liar. You lied to me?" she shrieked, turning on Kevin. "Tiffany, baby, let me explain. I have money. I'll take care of you." Kevin tried to grab her hand, but she shoved him away. "Take care of me? You can't even take care of yourself, you pathetic liar." Tiffany swung her hand and slapped Kevin across the face. The sound echoed through the quiet, luxurious store. Kevin stumbled back, holding his cheek. Not finished, Tiffany grabbed a glass of orange juice from a nearby table and threw it in his face, drenching his old suit. "Stay away from me. "Don't you ever let me see you again," she screamed, then stormed out of the store, leaving Kevin standing alone amidst the judgmental stares of the staff and customers. I watched him, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "Looks like the tycoon act is over, Kevin. You should try living an honest life. Pretending to be someone you're not only leads to humiliation. As for the $500,000 you demanded, you won't get a cent. Now go figure out how to pay your rent and stop dreaming." I turned to the sales associate with a polite smile. "I'll take these heels in a size 7. I'll be paying with my card." Kevin, utterly humiliated, slunk out of the store like a beaten dog. He knew that from this day forward, he had no right to hold his head high and certainly no right to threaten me ever again. After the mortifying incident at the mall, Kevin's spirit was completely broken. Rumors that he was a con artist spread. While no one at his agency knew the specifics, the suspicious glances started. Coupled with the stern warning letter from Mr. Thompson, Kevin knew he had no moves left. 3 days later, Mr. Thompson called to inform me that Kevin had agreed to sign the divorce papers. No more demand for $500,000, no more ridiculous conditions. He accepted an uncontested divorce in exchange for my silence about his affair. On the day of the court hearing, it was pouring rain. I arrived looking confident and radiant in a chic business dress, with Mr. Thompson by my side. In contrast, Kevin looked haggard and defeated, with stubble on his chin and dark circles under his eyes. He came alone. We sat opposite each other before the judge. The judge asked one final time about our wishes. I stated clearly that I agreed to the divorce. Kevin hesitated, glancing at me as if he wanted to say something, but after catching Mr. Thompson's icy stare, he quickly looked down and mumbled, "I agree." The divorce papers were placed before him. He picked up the pen, his hand shaking. He paused for a long time before signing. Perhaps in that final moment, he truly understood what he had lost. He had lost a wife who truly loved him and a life of comfort, all because of his own weakness and greed. "Mr. Miller, please sign. We have other matters to attend to." Mr. Thompson prompted gently but firmly. Kevin exhaled, then signed his name. The shaky, scrawled signature legally ended our marriage. The moment he put the pen down, I felt a weight lift. The invisible chain that had bound me for 2 years was finally broken. I was free. As I walked out, Kevin ran after me. "Emily, can I say one thing?" I stopped but didn't turn around. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know it's too late, but I'm truly sorry. If I had known how to protect you, how to cherish you back then. There are no ifs." "Kevin," I cut him off, my voice even. "Life doesn't have a rewind button. You chose your mother. You chose your fragile pride. You chose betrayal over me. Now you're getting what you sowed. Live the rest of your life as a decent person. Don't make anyone else suffer because of you." I walked away without another word and got into the waiting car. It sped away into the rain, leaving Kevin standing alone on the courthouse steps, a solitary, pathetic figure. That was the last image I had of my ex-husband. A final, fitting end to the past, and the beginning of a promising new chapter. The first morning of my official single life, I woke up feeling refreshed. No more blaring alarm clock at 6 a.m. to cook breakfast for my in-laws. No more of Carol's nagging about saving electricity. I stretched, enjoying the morning sun, and sipped a hot cup of coffee. But my peace was shattered by the ringing of my phone. It was an unknown number. My gut told me it was trouble, but I answered anyway. A desperate, wailing voice came through the line. "Emily, my dear daughter, it's me, Mom Carol. Please come back to me. I know I was wrong." I smirked, just as I'd expected. Now that her son's life was in ruins, the wicked mother-in-law was stooping to beg. Her usual shrill, bossy tone was gone, replaced by a fake, pleading whine. "Hello, Mrs. Miller. The court has made its ruling. Your son and I have no relationship anymore. It's not appropriate for you to call me your daughter." Carol ignored my sarcasm and continued her sob story. "Don't say that, Emily. We had a bond for 2 years. We have no home. Kevin lost his job and is just lying in bed, depressed, and I'm so sick. Please have pity on Kevin, have pity on this old woman, and come back. I promise I'll treat you like a queen from now on. Kevin misses you so much. He calls your name in his sleep every night. I put my coffee down, nauseated by her clumsy acting. Misses me? Or misses my money? Misses his unpaid servant? When Kevin was taking his mistress Tiffany shopping, when he was trying to demand $500,000 from me, did you miss me then? When your son had a young, beautiful woman on his arm, you were probably thrilled you were finally getting rid of me. Did you call me your daughter then? Or did you call me a curse on your family? Now that he's broke, dumped, and in debt, you suddenly remember me. The line went silent for a moment. I pressed on, giving her no room to argue. Let me be clear, Mrs. Miller. I am not a saint who goes around saving people who have trampled on my self-respect. The $50,000 my mother gave Kevin was more than enough for you two to live on, if you were frugal. But if you think you're going to get back to a life of luxury on my dime, you're dreaming. Don't ever call me again, or I will report you for harassment. I hung up and blocked the number. I felt no guilt. Misplaced compassion is just cruelty to oneself. I walked out onto the balcony and looked down at the bustling city below. My life would no longer have room for crocodile tears. I deserved better, and I would build that happiness myself. Leaving the toxic marriage behind, I treated myself to a real vacation. First stop, Napa Valley. The crisp, clean air and rolling vineyards were a balm to my soul. I rented a small cottage nestled among the hills, far from the tourist crowds. For the first time in years, I felt like I was truly living, not just surviving. I had wasted my youth trying to please people who didn't value me. From Napa, I flew to Hawaii. The warm sun and turquoise water were invigorating. I spent my days lounging on the beach, snorkeling among the coral reefs, and meeting new people from all over the world. They didn't care about my past. They just saw the person I was today. The world was so much bigger than my small, painful marriage. During those nights, listening to the waves, I started thinking about my future. I had a passion for writing and communications, a career Kevin had dismissed as frivolous. With no one to hold me back, I started sketching out a business plan. I would open a digital media studio, helping other women find their voice. The trip not only healed my soul but also reignited a passion that had long been dormant. I returned to the city transformed, with a sun-kissed glow, a bright smile, and eyes full of determination. The old Emily was gone. In her place was a new, strong, proud woman. Back in the city, I poured my energy into my new venture. With my savings and my parents' support, I founded May Media, a boutique agency specializing in personal branding and content creation. The early days were tough, but I found joy in the work, the thrill of building something from the ground up. At a marketing seminar, I met Daniel. He was the keynote speaker, a successful tech entrepreneur with a calm, confident demeanor. After his talk, I approached him for advice. He was generous with his time and insights. "You have a great instinct for content," he said, "but you need to be bolder." He suggested we meet for coffee to discuss it further. Our business meeting soon turned into something more. Daniel was everything Kevin wasn't. Thoughtful, respectful, and a great listener. He knew about my divorce but never treated me with pity. Instead, he admired my strength. "Your past made you who you are today," he once told me. "A woman who can walk through a storm and still smile like you do is truly remarkable." My frozen heart began to thaw. We started as friends, building a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. With his guidance, May Media grew, and I realized that true love isn't about possession, but about partnership and growth. 6 months later, my business had outgrown its small office. I was looking for a larger space when a real estate agent told me about a commercial loft for sale at a great price. The owner was desperate to sell. That afternoon, I went to see it. The building was old, and the loft was cluttered and smelled of stale medicine. But what shocked me was the man sitting in a wheelchair in the corner. It was Kevin. In just over 6 months, he had aged a decade. He was rail-thin, his hair streaked with gray, his face gaunt. When he saw me, he dropped the bowl of soup in his lap, his eyes wide with shock and shame. "Emily, is that you?" he stammered. The agent explained. "This is Mr. Miller, the owner. He was in a car accident 3 months ago. His mother had a stroke and is paralyzed on one side. He's selling to pay for medical bills and debts. It turned out this was the investment property Kevin had secretly bought while we were married. Now, it was his last asset. He couldn't look me in the eye. "I didn't know the buyer was you," he mumbled. "If it's awkward, I can tell the agent to find someone else." I looked at him, then toward the bedroom where I could hear his mother's weak groans. A flicker of pity crossed my mind, but it was the pity of someone looking down from a great height at the person who once hurt them, now suffering the consequences of their actions. Karma had come for him sooner than I expected. I adopted my professional demeanor. "It's fine. I'm here to buy an office. If the paperwork is clean and the price is right, I'll buy it. The past is the past. We're just business partners in this transaction." I inspected the loft. Kevin sat silently in his wheelchair, his shame palpable. Finally, I stood before him. "The location is good, but it needs a lot of work. I'm willing to buy it at the current market rate. I'll pay in full, in cash, as soon as the title is transferred, on the condition that you vacate the premises in 3 days." Tears welled up in Kevin's eyes. He knew a cash payment was a lifeline. "Thank you, Emily," he whispered. I'm so sorry for everything. I was a fool. I deserve this." His apology, so long overdue, felt hollow. I looked at the man who was once my husband, and all my anger had vanished. The best revenge is living well and watching your enemies destroy themselves. "Keep your apology for yourself," I said coolly. "Use it to live a better life. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow to handle the paperwork." I walked out of that old building into the afternoon sun. I had gotten the office I wanted and, in doing so, had settled the final debt of my past. From now on, there was nothing left between us. A few months later, I received a wedding invitation. The bride was Jessica, my toxic ex-best friend. The groom was a wealthy, much older businessman, known for being both a womanizer and a cheapskate. "Wanna go?" Daniel asked me with a knowing smile. "I think it could be an interesting evening." That night, I walked into the lavish wedding reception on Daniel's arm. I looked and felt spectacular. Jessica was greeting guests at the door. When she saw me, her fake smile froze. Envy flashed in her eyes. "Well, look who it is," she sneered, loud enough for others to hear. "I'm surprised you showed your face. Found yourself another man to leech off of?" Before I could respond, Daniel stepped forward. "Hello, Jessica. I'm Daniel, Emily's fiancé. We're partners, in business and in life." As for her being divorced, I consider myself lucky. It meant she was free to meet me. He then turned to the portly groom. "Congratulations. I've heard your bride here was dating 3 other men right before she met you, just to see who was richest. I hope she's more loyal to you than she was to her friends." The groom's face turned purple. Jessica went pale, stammering denials, but her guilt was obvious. I looked at her, humiliated in front of her new husband and all their guests, and felt a sense of closure. "Let's go," I whispered to Daniel. We left the chaos behind and stepped out onto a balcony overlooking the glittering city. Daniel took my hand. "You see? People who live ugly lives eventually get what they deserve. You, Emily, deserve the best." He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful diamond ring. "Will you write the next chapter of your life with me?" I looked into his eyes, and this time, there was no fear, no hesitation. I smiled, the happiest, most genuine smile of my life. "Yes," I said, "I will."